Let's click the button and we will go live. And we're live. Let's talk Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going crazy, phenomenal. The price action is more than anybody anticipated. So today, we'll go through some technicals, but mostly the fundamentals of where we are, where we're going, how long can this last. It is crazy times. As you see, we had a nice channel that we broke out of recently, and we have not looked back. Hitting 93K. Right now, we're just under 90,000. That is phenomenal. That is crazy. Bitcoin has pumped and will continue to pump. This is the halving here. We we're in what's called the banana zone now, and it's getting crazy, and it's going to get even more crazy into next year. Main driver, as you guys are well aware, is mainly the orange man loving the orange coin. Trump getting elected really solidified a move away from where we used to be, right? The current regime being extremely hostile, SEC and others, Choke Point 2.0 and others, to Bitcoin and crypto. We are out of that now. The election hasn't been solidified with the candidate in office, but because he is the president elect and is appointing significantly favorable individuals in cabinet positions toward that, with the red sweep in Congress as well, we're looking at not only the president being favorable and supportive of Bitcoin and crypto, but also the lawmakers that might get beneficial legislation passed as well, being significantly for that. And I really like this article from Alison Morrow here because it's kind of true. Is there's been a lot of different changes in the narrative in Bitcoin, hardcore Bitcoin people over the years, and this is kind of prescient of um, this is kind of antithetical to a lot of the values and norms that the crypto enthusiasts back in the day used to hold dear. Is that anarcho-capitalist, sovereign individual of I own my money and I don't care what you do. Bitcoin sure as hell doesn't care what you do. It is mine. I'm going to do what I want with it. Now you're seeing them kind of fight for and advocate for nation states to get involved in Bitcoin. So it's a little bit different. It's definitely good for the price, but you could argue pretty cleanly that nation states and large institutions like BlackRock having more and more of a stakeholder and representative in crafting that narrative and shaping that in their image might not be a good thing for a lot of the values of why we joined Bitcoin and crypto in the first place. Definitely is good for the dollar and number go up technology though. Florida is one of the states which is now including Bitcoin in its pensions funds, in its sovereign funds, its wealth, if you will, and then using them to not only it benefit the state, but more so to benefit the individuals that are counting on it from like a pension perspective of firefighters and teachers and others. What this means is some of these states are going to be putting up to 10% of their pension funds and other funds in crypto, which is huge. And I think every single one of these has called it digital gold. So it's a realization, we'll talk about this in a little bit, that Bitcoin is here. It has arrived. It has the narrative of a safe investment. It has the narrative of being an asset class in its own, which is very unique. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But people, and Larry Fink has gotten on TV and gotten out there in the mainstream of stating exactly why, crypto and Bitcoin is valuable. And this chart kind of expresses that. This is the uh, deficit expressed as a function of the gross domestic product. And this is not what you want to see, right? You want to see this chart go, um, and it's negative. So this chart, you technically want to see it go up and to the right, which is meaning we're getting a negative deficit, meaning a surplus. But in this case, it's getting extremely exacerbated down and to the right, which more and more of a deficit and debt in relation to our GDP. And the amount that we're going to be spending every single year to pay off the interest alone on that is over $1 trillion. It's only going to increase. And this is kind of expressing a little bit of that narrative with the M2 money supply, basically like how much money is out there with the liquidity and likely to result in inflation down the road either. inflation isn't directly caused by this, but it leads to it, right? If you have a lack of a confidence in your currency, in your money, because it has been just printed away with a money printer going burr, this is fixed by the solid monetary policy of Bitcoin only ever having 21 million as an example. And this is extremely eye opening to see. This is the 36-month compounding annual returns of Bitcoin. This is astronomical. No other asset class shows you the returns like this. So fiduciaries are waking up now in the institutional, sense of, they have to, invest their customers' money in things that will make them money. Now you have nation states that are waking up to this, just like we expressed with President Trump as well. So if you just add a small percentage of Bitcoin to your portfolio, you see outsized returns in that portfolio as little as a 1% investment, which is crazy. And there's plenty of statistics and different products that you can show that do this, but it is extremely eye-opening to see that from the institutional side. Another state, Pennsylvania, introduces a bill for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and I think was this 10%? Allow the state's treasury to allocate up to 10% of its $7 billion state funds into this. So another huge win for those states that get it. They understand that you can't just hold bonds and have the people that are investing and counting on that money to being there in the future. They need that money. They need that money to make them money to be better off in that future environment. El Salvador, you guys have seen this previously. This is what happens when you just behind the scenes humbly stack sats and you never stop, right? There's been times where he's gotten a lot of flack because he is, more aggressive in his leadership of the country and does sacrifice some of the sovereignty of some of the individuals that have broke laws in the country, for instance, and leads with a more heavy hand than the Western countries traditionally do. But his approval rating is really high, and his ability to, through the adversity, stick to his vision of stacking sats has absolutely paid off, and they have over $500 million right now with Bitcoin. And it's just 1.5% of the GDP, but that's pretty significant of having that country. I think there's 6 million people in the country. You have over $100 per, person there in the country, which is huge. And then that article also talked about this sleeper, and this one really snuck up on almost everybody. Bhutan, a country that really got impacted by COVID, went out and they started mining Bitcoin in stealth mode because they have a huge wealth of natural energy through hydroelectric power. So they use that to stack sats. It's a mimosa kind of day. So they've amassed a huge wealth, and they're not stopping, right? They have $1 billion worth of Bitcoin right now from their mining operations, and that's likely to only increase in the future, which is like absolutely huge for that small country. I think they have about 800,000 people. They don't have that many people in Bhutan, so it's extremely interesting to watch them grow this enormous wealth per capita by harnessing that natural resource that they have of melting ice and water flowing, which is huge. Moving from the nation state side into the institutional side, no company has went deeper and further into this than MicroStrategy has. If you listen to the recent earnings call, MicroStrategy just knocked the doors off of what they're trying to do, setting their vision very clearly for their investors, and their investors absolutely are eating it up. The premium right now on MicroStrategy stock is like phenomenally high. They understand that they're getting into MicroStrategy for Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy is stepping it up to another level. They're basically using their ability to gain funds in the public, markets to leverage their investments in Bitcoin, and they're going even harder into that in the future. They stated over the next 3 years that they're going to be investing $42 billion in that. That's going to be half, 21 billion at the market offerings for their stock, and then another 21 billion, which is going to be convertible debt. So as long as Bitcoin keeps going up, this is likely to result in significant appreciation for MicroStrategy stock, and it's likely to result in significant appreciation as more and more Bitcoin get bought. You can imagine how much Bitcoin, $42 billion is. Obviously, it's going to push the price up, but that's a significant amount of Bitcoin if they can execute on that. The downside is, this, if Bitcoin, price goes down over a long time period, this could significantly hurt MicroStrategy and Bitcoin as well if it, that leverage unwinds. So caveat, beware. ETF flows are crazy. So everybody says BlackRock's buying tons of Bitcoin. Yes, that's kind of true and kind of not true, right? So BlackRock is not the one that's actually buying the Bitcoin. They're the one that has the fund, and that fund, they're just collecting a 0.25%, fee on that, a 25 bip fee on that. So they're basically allowing a participant to purchase the Bitcoin, Coinbase to store the Bitcoin, and they're collecting the fees from that. But if you see in this left column here, the IBIT, that's the amount of inflows that we've seen to Bitcoin in the recent past. So this is IBIT, the largest one being BlackRock's, and then the total inflows over on the right there, astronomically large. Going into the election, there was a lot of uncertainty. People didn't really know what to expect. Election hits, $1 billion of inflow, 200 million, 756 million, 778 million. These numbers are astronomically large. And we're seeing this have a game theoretic, beating on itself perspective of people are getting in, it pushes the price up. More people see the price getting pushed up and need to get in. And then more people, see the price going up, and it's reflexive in that way of, yes, it can catch a little bit of steam going downhill when it's in a negative spiral. We are absolutely in that uphill spiral right now, like we talked about in these charts. Like this is up and to the right. It just broke out significantly, and it is likely to continue to break out significantly. Let me actually show right now. So let's go from the days to the weeks. And then I've marked on here the halvings. So every 4 years, approximately, it's a little bit shorter than that because of the mining difficulty changing, the Bitcoin released to the miners halves per block. So 2016, 2020, 2024. And as you see, what happens to the price after, and this is a log scale. So if you took it at a log scale, it's just crazy. But what happens to the price after that halving? Don't look immediately after it because sometimes it can be a little bit of noise. But after the halving, it's banana zone, as Raul Paul states. It goes on a rampage, and we are just now coming out of this channel, and there's a little bit of a wedge there as well. Just now seeing that up and to the right movement. So like this is essentially where we've been. This is essentially where we've been. We're there now. So we're not going to essentially exactly repeat what that did, but if you look at that, if you look at that from the previous times, you're looking at 400% appreciation there. So I'm not going to say we're going to do that on top of this, but that's 370,000 ish from here. So this is just getting started. I'm not saying we're going to 370K. Not saying that. I'm saying we're going up. So get on board, if you will. Let's go to a little bit more of the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is and kind of reinforce what makes it special. You guys might have read the Bitcoin Standard or some other books, but basically we started with this, primitive commodities of, I don't believe that we started with barter, but I do believe that we started with a credit-based system and an ability of individuals to show that credit debit system with some sort of commodity, whether that's rhinestones or salt or anything else, beads, are extremely important to express that in some way that's basically transferable, and it can also be understood cleanly and then realized with other individuals. To precious metals, which are the hardest ones that you have. You're not going to find more, gold on the beach like you would a shell, as an example. And then that was basically owned and taken advantage of by banks, originally private, and then public, and moving into the fiat world, where the individual coins are not backing any kind of paper cash anymore. it is not redeemable for a certain amount of gold. Fiat means trust us, we've got you, and we've got a lot of guns. And then moving past that, which I think everybody realizes that fiat is not sustainable. The pound sterling is the most resilient, you know, uh, currency money that's ever existed, and it's went down over 99.7%. So is it really successful? Yeah, it's successful, but I think we can do better. And how we can do better is with that Bitcoin, of that triple entry accounting system of, writing something that's basically like a diary on your list of here's what people owe me, to having a double entry of that, to now what we have is a universal ledger of everybody knowing who owes who what, or you actually have the bearing of that money to that individual, and moving into that new standard, which is the digital, future. Ray Dalio did a really good example of explaining this as well. We've seen historically some rises and falls of um, kingdoms, of empires, of monies, historically, from Spain to the Netherlands to France to the UK. All of these seemingly going up and then transitioning to another, and they're kind of showing the U.S.'s downfall. I wouldn't put too much stock in that. We're very much on the swing up, and then it's kind of a little bit insinuating that China is going to be coming right behind us as well, which you've been paying attention to their economy recently as well. They ain't doing so hot, so they're probably not going to be too much, coming up fast on our heels there. But there is potential for an independent, non-perverted, coin slash money to be taking that place. And the reason is, we showed you the M2 money supply. That's only on a one-way ship, and it's not going down, right? So that money is getting inflated away, and it's semi-purposeful. They want to do that to incentivize the actual spending of it in an inflationary way, instead of the deflationary, coin that people are more likely to hold themselves. Bitcoin has and will ever have 21 million in existence, and it's decreased from that because of people losing and burning their coins. It's not reached that, obviously, because of the release supply to achieve it somewhere around 2140, but it will never have the ability to do the deflation, and inflation, truly, that the fiat has. I'm not a huge fan of this, but it basically shows that what we had previously is not the end all be all, right? Yes, horses were great, and they lasted and gave us a bunch of things and power, but that was replaced by ICE engines, internal combustion engines. And then that, lamp that was out on the street that you had to have the people lighting, it's a little bit easier if you just electrify the steam engines that existed in the factories, and other things, and condensing that, wood into steel. And, it's showing the future of money. You could put a gold bar there, or in this case, fiat is Bitcoin. I like it more if this infograph kind of stated the digitization of all these things. This kind of does, but it gets a little bit off. But it's basically saying all of this energy, goodness, value, creation is being made more dense. In the world that we have, we're able to step up all of these things in order of magnitude more. So the information on that papyrus scroll is now significantly more dense, more resilient, more easily transmitted in that PDF file. Same goes with coal to uranium. Same goes with wheat. In this instance, to gold to Bitcoin. Again, it's not perfect, but you kind of understand what they're talking about. So to, mix those previous two and understand that, the most valuable thing outside of time is information, and the most valuable thing is time. So if you take the ability to monetize information, if you take the ability to monetize time, that is proof of work, essentially. That is Bitcoin. And I like this chart as well. So everybody looks at the S&P 500 as the number one index to see where everything is, just with the Dow is the same. But what if you denominated that or any others in Bitcoin? And there was a recent chart on that as well for fiat. Yes, the S&P 500 is going up and to the right, and it seems to be accelerating up and to the right. But if you denominate that in the most scarce resource that exists, in the hardest form of money, Bitcoin, doesn't look so hot anymore. So are you going to own the S&P 500 or are you going to own the Bitcoin? And this is huge. Anybody that ever once tried to say that, Bitcoin isn't real, Peter Schiff stating it's a Ponzi and other things, scoreboard, man. This shows you exactly the antithesis to that argument. Bitcoin just surpassed silver. It is the 8th most precious commodity, resource, investable security, anything in existence right now. And if you see, that way, if you see Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Saudi Aramco, those are fleeting. So if you don't believe that Bitcoin can surpass those, I think you got your head in the sand, ostrich style. These will ebb and flow. The stocks will inflate. Yes, Nvidia is hot because everybody needs the GPUs to train their AI, but that will change. And what happens when these massive balance sheets that these companies have start buying the Bitcoin, which we've already seen? Microsoft is voting on that next month at their shareholders meeting. So this is absolutely huge. And then I'll take another opportunity while we're here too to state how I have a little bit different of a take on this than some. I do not believe in the Bitcoin is gold narrative. I believe that is completely short-sighted. Bitcoin will be so much more than gold. It will be bigger than gold. Gold is a starting point because Bitcoin checks off so many more boxes of the hard money narrative than gold does. And it's so much better for the digitized economy, the digital world that we live in, and then imagine AIs in the future. How are they going to interact? They're not going to be sending wire transfers and ACHs and things. Sure, they might use Doge instead of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin will be the settlement of all of that international commerce between humans and AI and other things in the future. So I kind of try to say Bitcoin is the next goal. It's going to surpass that. And if you look at the chart, it's basically a tenth of that right now. So if Bitcoin achieves the market cap of gold, you're looking at approximately $900,000 a coin. So that one is eye-opening because it's such a large dollar figure on each Bitcoin. But two, because it's totally achievable to do it a 10x. We've seen that in every single, at least in every single cycle that we've ever had in Bitcoin. So I don't think that it will do that this cycle. I believe this cycle will top out, in around, Q3 of 2025. So I don't think it'll get 900,000. It could, but I believe it is an inevitability, in the, short to medium term that it will surpass gold. This chart will never be shown again because it will be so far ahead of gold that it will be crazy. The ability to value people's time, energy in that, digital world through Bitcoin will far surpass gold. So that we'll end it there. I think I've kind of covered a little bit to kind of show you guys what I think. The future is bright. The ability for Bitcoin to continue as it has is it's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. But if you look at these cycles, you can understand that nothing that we're doing is crazy. We're repeating the liquidity and having cycles of the past. There are diminishing returns, and I believe this one will be diminishing as well. But the ability for us to predictably accomplish these, you can't overlook that. You have to at least assess why, what your narrative is of not getting involved in this space. The high, will be somewhere between around 150 to 450, somewhere around there. If you take this chart and you put, I think a lot of the consensus right now is 150. That doesn't really look too high. If you're looking at some of these swings on here, let's say bottom to top last cycle, you're looking at an 18x. Let's say we only do a 10x. Let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back here. And we'll do the 10x. You're looking at 180,000 at 10x alone. And I'm not saying it's going to do that, but like with that diminishing return, if you're getting to that 18x, 10x isn't that far of a reach. And to be frank, if FTX didn't blow up last time, I think that there is huge potential to go significantly higher last because of the manipulations and other things associated with that. That being said, in the previous markets and runs, there was also issues that perverted the price discovery of that, and there will be this time as well. Some large company or even a government could do something immensely stupid of getting their reserve hacked and getting all those dumped on the market. Or like we talked about earlier, let's say the MicroStrategy strategy, doesn't go so hot and they have to dump it. They are a forced seller on the market due to whatever reason. They get some indictments or I don't know, whatever. Like there are some exogenous events that could obviously pervert this, but the good old saying is, you show me the charts and I'll show you the news kind of a thing. This is reasonably predictable, and I can tell you one thing: it is not going down to the right. So wanted to share this. Wanted to bring you guys along on that journey with me. I like making the videos. I don't get to do them enough. I wish I was able to make more videos for you guys, but the time's been a little bit tight recently. So if you guys have anything that you do want to see, please drop a comment below. If you are not subscribed, take the time and subscribe. I had off today, so I wanted to make this video and share this with you guys. But let me know, what I'm interested in, why you might not be as bullish as I am on Bitcoin and crypto. It's so glaringly obvious that it sometimes is surprising because I'm so close to it, how there are others that are not on board. But if you need something to help you through that process, let me know. What do you guys want to see? Also, any kind of AI stuff. If you want any interactions and integrations between the crypto and the AI, I would love to do some of that when I get a little bit of time to. If you have any ideas there, please let me know. All right.